Hi, I'm Suzanne McNeill with Design Originals, and I have an exciting quilting project to show you today, and this is Zentangle stitching. This is a follow-up to the one where I showed you how to draw right on the fabric. So here are a couple samples that are already done, and this is a whole new look to quilting. Look at all these beautiful stitches. And in these books, all these stitches are outlined. So just look right here at this small one. That's called Rick's Paradox, and here it is just done as the entire quilting design. No pattern added around it. Isn't that just beautiful? It's like magic, and I'm going to show you that on my machine. So the way I like to start my quilts is I just like to make a lot of little test drawings so that I know what I'm going to do on my quilting. And once I make a whole bunch of these, then I can choose the ones I like the best. So just like regular Zentangle, I'm going to put a dot in each corner. You could do this with a pencil. And then I'm going to draw the outline. Then I'm going to draw my sections. I'm just going to make 3 simple sections here. So let me show you the first pattern. I want to divide this side in half. I'm going to do Rick's Paradox. So I'm just taking my pen, and a lot of people like to turn their tile. Right here it's against the edge, and then I move out a little bit. If I turn my tile against the edge and move out a little bit, I've practiced quite a bit, so I don't need to turn my tile anymore. But when you're stitching, you definitely will want to turn your tile. So I'm starting against the edge, I move out a little bit, out, 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 and I just keep going until I fill that entire space. And like magic, it turns in the center. So now I'm going to start in this square. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I move out a little bit, move out a little bit, move out. And when you're quilting, of course, you don't want to pick up your pen, so you will want to choose patterns that are continuous lines, and that's why the Zen quilting books are so valuable, because they show you all the continuous line patterns, so you don't have to test them yourself. You just have to practice a little bit and learn to do them. Oh, it's so much fun. So that's Rick's Paradox. And now over here, I'm just going to do a simple pattern. Now again, I'm pretending that I am using my machine, so I have to do continuous lines. I'm making a point, I step over, make a point, step over, make a point, step over, make a point, and now I'm going to come back, and this time I'm just making a simple zigzag, but following along that same line pattern. So now if I were using my machine, I'd want to walk right over here, just backtrack on that line, and now I'm going to do some crescent moons right around this edge. This is a great quilting one, and it's one of my favorites to draw also. And now I'm just going to go back and make a second arc or aura around there. Continue doing that, and since I'm doing continuous line, I'm just going to bring a line right out here and then start working around the center. Now I'm going to show you how to do this on your machine in just a few minutes. So that's really a lot of fun, and then I can end that right there. So you can see that I started in one place and I worked to the end without ever picking up my pen, so I would only have 2 knots if I were doing that. So now to translate that to fabric, you're going to need a backing fabric, you're going to need a piece of batting, you're going to need a top piece of fabric, you're going to need maybe a spray bottle to erase the erasable blue line scissors, a blue line pen, black thread is traditional for classic Zentangle, and your machine feet, of course. So again, I'm going to start just the same. I'm going to put a dot close to each corner, and then I'm going to connect this follow this right here because I was very happy with the way that it came out. There's this, and then I divided this side in half also. So I'm going to show you how to stitch this. It's really fun. Now here's the little tile that I just drew. So you can see how the outline follows that here on the blue line on the fabric. So I like to set my machine on a little bit of a short stitch, and I just start stitching and go around the outline first. So now I'm back here and I'll need to stitch right on top of this line. Well, I couldn't wait. I want to start the Rick's Paradox pattern. So you remember, you start on the edge and then you move out just a little bit. As you get close to the center, it magically turns. Now that I'm in the center, then I'm going to want to walk back out this same line to start my next pattern. Now I'm going to repeat exactly the same pattern. I start up here in the corner and I move out just a little bit. Now to get out of that, I'm going to walk back out this line right here. Just always follow a line you've done. So now let's look at this one. This is just fabulous. You know, this pattern was neat just by itself, and this one looked good by itself, but look what happens. This magical other shape forms like a double scroll right in the center when you do them right next to each other. So now let me do the zigzag. And now I'm ready to do the second line. And so the first line had these blunt edges on it, and the second line was pointy on both ends, just like I drew that pattern earlier. So now I'm to another pattern. Now these both had sort of straight lines, so I was able to do them with my regular walking foot. But now I'm going to switch to my quilting foot, so my free motion foot, so that I can do more rounded lines. Okay, so now I'm going to do this one with the rounded, and it's easier to do these with free motion quilting. So I did cut my thread and I put on my free motion quilting foot. I'm going to line that up right there, and then my machine has a feed dog button I can punch so that it puts it into free motion. If your machine doesn't have free motion, you'll just have to use the patterns that are straighter lines. So now Now I've completed my first circle. You might notice I'm not an expert quilter, but this Zentangle on fabric stitching is it's a wonderful way to learn how to stitch, and it does, just like Zentangle in life, it doesn't have to be perfect with every stitch. So now I'm going to do the second row. And then since I'm doing continuous line, I'm just going to do a little stitch line to the interior before I do the center. And there I am, totally finished with my piece. All I'll need to do is pull my threads to the back, tie my knots on the back, and I want to show you a couple other pieces I've done. So now here's the piece I just finished. I'm just going to cut my threads, and you can see that it really has a relationship. It's not exactly the same, but you're just using this first one as a guide. You can certainly see that I followed that pattern. Here's another one that I completed. Just a little bit different. Every time you do it, it's a little bit different, and that's part of the fun of it. And here are some other ones. I've used the same stitches, but I've added a couple, like the checkerboard in the middle. So the books tell you all about these patterns. And here's one I actually took my black micron and colored in some of these patterns, like right in here, and that gives it really a lot of pop to that type design. So the two books, both of these have a lot of samples and patterns inside, all how to do Zentangle, how to draw it, and how to stitch it. This is Pat Ferguson's book. This is a wonderful book. This is how Pat teaches her classes. It gives you A to Z, everything you need to do to learn Zentangle on fabric. And aren't her pieces beautiful? And then here are a lot of the continuous line patterns. You'll want to use those. And in the back there's even some coloring of your Zentangle, or stitching with colored threads also. So this Zentangle is so much fun. Let me just show you the last step. Here we are, and I just need to take my squirt bottle, and when I squirt that, those blue lines disappear. Now I'd want to let that dry overnight, and then I could, if I wanted to, come back and use my micron pen to color in some black areas, or I can just leave it just like that. So enjoy Zentangle on fabric.